Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. I'm your host, George Elek, and this is the Punchestown Festival preview. And I'm joined by two expert guests, two veterans of the Oddschecker betting show, Oddschecker tipster Andy Holding and racing journalist and broadcaster Ed Quigley as well. The dream team ahead of the Punchestown Festival. And normally, when we talk about these big festivals for Aintree, for Cheltenham, we give every day its own show. This time we're doing something a little bit different, and we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of the whole week. I think we've got 10 or 11 races that we're going to try and get through in just about an hour's time. I say it's an hour now. Let's see where we are come the end of the show. Before we get into it, we're not going to do the usual small talk. Ed, I'm just going to assume that you're okay. I'm not even going to ask you how you are. But Andy, this is, we spend a lot of time talking about Cheltenham and it all builds up to that, but there's almost something more fascinating about seeing some rivalries renewed from March, and also some horses that we saw racing different events coming together here over the Irish Sea this week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we needed a reminder of how different certain horses are at certain tracks and certain time of year on different ground, you only had to have a look at Put the Kettle on Saturday at Sandown. A totally different performance to the one we saw her when she obviously not dominated, but she took care of a good field in the Champion Chase, had Grenadine in behind, and yet lo and behold on different ground, going right-handed, she wasn't quite up to her best. So I think you've got to factor that into all your betting strategies this week at Punchestown. It doesn't matter how dominant you think they might have been at Cheltenham. It was under a certain set of circumstances, certain set of ground, that some horses were able to come out on top. I think it'll be very different. This meeting usually run on a good deal softer ground than what they're going to encounter, I would have thought, over the next 4 or 5 days. They've obviously water to maintain, but with the sun still beaming, shining down, it's going to be quite quick for a lot of these horses. So you just got to bear that in mind. Again, we've got some really good clashes out there. All the big guns are going to be there. We haven't got big fields, so a lot of these races we're going to be talking about aren't tremendous betting races. They might be for some, but not me personally, not. I'm sure Ed's the same as well. He locked a little bit of value with his betting, but they're going to be fascinating races all the same.
Yeah, really, really exciting stuff. We'll get into it now. We're just basically going to go through from Tuesday through to Saturday and pick out some of the headline races. So apologies if there are any races that we don't cover that you wish we had. At the end, I will ask both Andy and Ed if they've got any other horses to flag that we haven't discussed, and make sure you do download the Oddschecker app, because Andy will, of course, have his column out every morning. So any bets in the big handicaps or this and that don't get mentioned here, they will be direct to the app on the morning of the racing. And also on the app, you can find the best prices, the best bookie offers, free bets, and so much more. So do download it now, and you can follow through the races as we discuss them. Recording this at about 12 on Monday, so the final decks are just coming through for Wednesday's racing. So Tuesday, so the first couple of races we're going to cover, we can be pretty confident that the market is pretty solid, and we know who's going to be running where. Wednesday, it's reforming as we speak, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there still could be a few horses to come out. But let's get into it. Plenty to get through, and the first race we're going to cover is the Champion Novice Hurdle tomorrow on Tuesday at 4:15, and it's one of the many races, as Andy alluded to there, where the fields are quite small and we've got a match at the top of the market. Echoes in the Rain is 10-11 favourite ahead of Blue Lord at 5-4. Utchard is 16-1, Duke Up 33s, Colonel Mustard 40s, and it's only fair, Ed, given that I completely ignored your well-being at the beginning, to give you first run in the opener.
That's very kind of you, George. Very kind of you. Yeah, coming to again a race uninspiring for betting heat. Echoes in Rain, obviously going up in class here. Again, we always talk about it, don't we? Getting the old the mayor's allowance does make a big pull in these types of contests. It's more. I've got a bit of a. I find the Blue Lord's becoming a little bit tripless. That might be a bit unfair, given it is still relatively early days, and he has run to a pretty high level of form in all those runs. But nonetheless, I thought when they stepped him up to 2.5 behind Bob Ollinger earlier in the season, he was really keen. Didn't look as though he got home. Obviously, it wasn't actually a bad performance in finishing runner-up to him behind. So I dropped him back to 2 miles at Leopardstown. I thought he looked totally outpaced in Dublin Racing Festival, but made late gains that day. And again, in the Champion Hurdle, I mean, he wouldn't have got near appreciated and was kind of staying on soft ground. I think he was about 7 lengths down at the time of his departure. just becoming a little bit kind of in between stools for me. Echoes in Rain, again, going up in class, has oozed. She's clearly a really progressive mare who's oozed class. I'd be tempted here to roll the dice with Uttred at a price. This horse is a really smart bumper horse, won a listed race, a listed bumper in really smart fashion. Joseph O'Brien said that had a couple of little setbacks. It hasn't been the easiest to keep in one piece. Made a belated comeback, as we said, it at Punchestown back in February. Was far too keen and lit up. Been off the track for over a year and ran like it. In all honesty, looked a bit ring rusty. But with that run under its belt, of course, just stayed away from Cheltenham, stayed away from Aintree, just been brought along a bit slowly. And I just wonder, Rachel Blackmore in the saddle. More the fact, I'm not massively sold on Blue Lord and Echoes and Rain's odds on. You know me, George. I got to go back to medieval times last time I backed an odds on shot. So, I'd be tempted to Uhtred at the prices just because this horse is totally unexposed. And again, I'll repeat, this is not a normal year where you've got your Supreme winner in here and, you perhaps got something that's gone Aintree, won by 15 lengths. You've got an unexposed mare who's rated 141 and Blue Lord, as good as he is, does keep finding a way to being beaten. So, tentative at Uhtred.
Tentative selection for Uhtred there in the 5-runner race at 16-1. So you are getting a quarter of the two if you did want to back Uhtred each way, and basically getting paid out at about 4-1 if he manages to finish in front of one of those two at least, which could be a nice way of playing it. Andy, where do you reckon the market's got these two the right way around, and can you see any value in those at a bigger price?
Well, the market, I think, has got it the right way around. I'm not necessarily sure that the Willie Mullins camp think they've got it the right way around, because Paul Townend, you could argue, has got off Echoes in Rain to stay loyal maybe to Blue Lord, going down the as Ed said, the Grade 1 route. Echoes in Rain is yet to prove itself at this in this company, but I think Echoes in Rain is a better horse than Blue Lord anyway. So I think the market has probably just about got it right. I think it's very interesting as well on two counts that Appreciate It, who was in this, doesn't line up here or might not even go to Punchestown full stop. I'm not really sure what the story is with him, or he might run later on in the week. But you would have thought, being as he won the Supreme Novice Hurdle, he'd be the first name on the team sheet to fly the flag for the Claus Sutton base. But they've got the horse that would have finished second to him, Blue Lord, and of course Echoes in Rain. Now, Echoes in Rain's a funny horse because early on in the season she was very, very keen and exuberant. That cost her a chance in a graded race at this track, funny enough, early on in the season behind Real Deal. And then they gave her a little bit more of a chance the next day. And it was the first time that we saw what she's capable of, because she absolutely scampered away from Belfast Banter. And we know that what he's gone on to achieve subsequently, County Hurdle winner and, of course, winner at Aintree. But it was her last run here which really told the tale of how this horse is shaping up. They surprised everyone, including me, by dropping her out completely last. I thought she was going to make the running that day. I actually fancied another horse in the race. So straight away I was thinking, oh my goodness, that's a bit of a shock. And she settled not sort of like really, really comfortably, but she raced, quite exuberantly, but not an absolute tearaway. And it really worked the trick. She got there, literally, she just joined in at the second last. She scampered away from not world beaters, but a good field. Colonel Mustard, MC Muldoon, the Devil's Coachman, that was the other one I fancied. And they're all good Grade 3 straight listed horses. She made them look absolutely daft. And it was only when I went back and done the split screen sectionals, which I often do and talk about, from going away from the stands to the line, just how good that performance was in comparison to Sky Ace, who won the Grade 1 mares race. She was 40 lengths quicker.
Really?
40 lengths quicker than Sky Ace. And obviously Sky Ace was over 2.5 miles and Echoes in Rain was 2 miles. So you'd half expect Echoes in Rain to be better, but not 40 lengths better. So I think this is a special mare going through the ranks. The only problem is we've got a small field here. How do they ride it? They're going to hope the Willie Mullins camp, if one of the other foot soldiers in the race, Colonel Mustard, has made the run in the past, Duke Cupper has made the run in past, might take them along at a good pace. But the key is settling it. If Paddy Mullins can settle her early on, she'll just have too much speed for these.
So Echoes in Rain, the one out of the two at the top that Andy thinks is the rightful favourite, 10 to 11 best price, as short as 4 to 5 elsewhere. Uhtred, the outsider for Ed. On to the second race we're going to be previewing, which is the 5:25, the William Hill Champion Chase on Tuesday, where Chacun Pour Soi is the 5 to 4 favourite. Allaho, second favourite at 7 to 4, dropping back to 2 miles. Nuba Negra is 11 to 2, First Flow 16 to 1. Claire's Emery is 25 to 1, 50 to 1. Castle Grace Paddy, 66 to 1. Daily Tiger. And you got a horse here in Chacun Pour Soi who didn't, was one of the hot pots at the festival who didn't come up trumps for favourite backers. Allaho, who was well backed and very, very impressive, albeit over 2.5. Allaho, a horse we saw, race over much of his career at 3 miles. Chacun Pour Soi gets the nod for favouritism at the moment as it stands. Can you see why, and who do you think is maybe the one to take him on with, if anybody?
I think this is the race in the meeting. I really do. At least we've got a bigger field, and we've got UK representation as well, and good UK representation at that, with First Flow Nubi Negra very sportingly coming over, just to add a bit of spice to it. We've got the best horse in Ireland over 2 miles for the last 2 seasons, Chacun Pour Soi. Disappointing at Cheltenham, but away from Cheltenham, he's very good on Heimsall, Leopardstown. He's won here before. I think he won this race before, didn't he, if I remember right? Bidding to get back on track, but unfortunately for Chacun Pour Soi followers, he's up against his stable companion Allaho, who might just be even a little bit better than him. I think he's the more talented horse of the two, and certainly based on the numbers that he did at Cheltenham, in that absolute brutality of a Marsh Chase, when he completely ripped the guts out of the Rhino, not the Marsh Chase, the Marsh Chase on the same day. I mean that I haven't seen anything but of equine brutality as that for a long time. I've gone on record and said that his time figure was good, but the way he destroyed that field in the first mile of the race is something to behold. And good horses were waving the white flag, jumping the water jump. They're absolutely out on their feet. The form looks as good as ever. We've seen Fake do Darissa Chase Man win at Aintree. Mr. Fisher, who pulled up absolutely drunk, ran really well against Frodon on Saturday. So there's nothing to, say anything other than positive things about the race. I think the drop back in 2 miles will be fine. Excuse me. Because he's shown that 2 mile championship speed throughout a 2.5 mile race, which I think will be seen to good effect over 2 miles. He's got a very good record going right-handed as well, so I'm not bothered about him going the other way around. And I actually think the interesting factor about the whole thing is not only I think he'll win this race, but what will Connections do with him next year?
I mean, is that presumably not why he's been sent here? Is because this must be them trying to work out if they have a Champion Chase horse for next March.
And it's going to be fascinating next year. We've got Shishkin 6 to 4 favourite for the Champion Chase. But if Allaho does what I think he will do to this field, beating Nubi Negra, Chacun Pour Soi, William Mullins is going to have a right job next year sorting out his pack for the 2 mile division, because he's still got Chacun. Presumably runs well here tomorrow. Allaho parachuting back to 2 miles and trying to win, the sort of purist, try and win at the purist. And then, of course, they've got Energumene as well, who we think will have a bit of a cakewalk in his novice chase later on in the season, going into the older division next year. So I think there's lots of different strands to look at this race. Not only has this race as a whole come tomorrow, but going forward, using your crystal ball, thinking, what about if Allaho wins this? That 8 to 1 currently for the Champion Chase could look absolutely incredible bit of value. So, I think William Mullins is going to have a great day on the first day, and I'm hoping that Allaho does what he did to that very good field at Cheltenham to this lot.
Allaho 7 to 4 with Betfair Sportsbook and Boyle Sports. Betfair Sportsbook, despite there being 7 runners, go a fifth the 3 places. So 7 to 4 each way, fifth. It's for some, not for others, but I have a feeling maybe for one of your each way multis, Andy, that could be quite handy. But 7 to 4 Allaho as it stands, the selection for Andy here. Ed, do you agree? Is this Allaho's time to prove that he has what it takes to be a champion chaser?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd probably be with Allaho if I was forced to have a bet. I'm not having one. I think First Flow right-handed to help, but needs deeper ground. Nubian Egra is a very consistent, very good horse. I think it's probably just a notch below the top-level horses. And Allaho's exciting. I mean, touch on what Andy said. I mean, Willie Mullins pretty much insinuated. He said, "I'd rather find out now whether we've got a Champion Chase horse rather than find out in November."
Yeah,
it dictates next season. If he comes in and gets stuffed 10 lengths by Shaka Poursoir, they'll just go back for the Ryanair route next season, and everything maps itself out. So, it is fascinating. Allaho, I'm surprised to see the discrepancy between the prices. I get it in the sense that Shaka Poursoir's, this is his kind of home event, if you like, back this trip back in Ireland. It was a little bit disappointing, wasn't it, Cheltenham? But yeah, I think Allaho is exciting. And as I said, it's more of this race with next season in mind, isn't it? The chance you could, in theory, could have an Ergamine, Allaho, and Shishkin all clashing in some kind of Tingle Creek or something like that. I mean, look, it's great stuff to look forward to. But I think this is very much a fact-finding mission for Allaho in order to find out what they're going to do with him for the next 2 seasons. He is only 7, and so they've obviously got the option they can step back up if need be. So yeah, Allaho for me looks one of the most exciting horses in training at the moment.
It was interesting. I went back and listened, was it 2 or 3 years ago, to our Cheltenham pod, and we had Joe Chambers on, who's Rich Ritchie's racing manager, and we were talking about Allaho in the Albert Bartlett, and Joe Chambers says, luckily Willie Mullins doesn't listen to me anyway, but he said this is about 2 weeks before he said he's got this wrong. Allaho should not be running over 3 miles. He's got this wrong. And lo and behold, here we are talking about Allaho as a 2-mile champion chaser.
Well, I intimated that as well last year. Don't you remember when we were talking about the RSA chase, and I was pleading with connections to run him in the marsh. Because I thought he'd win the marsh, because he's run the time before when he clocked a very big number going right-handed over 2.5 miles. Suggested to me he was all speed rather than stamina. He did really well, by the way, to hang on as tough as he did. He still led going down to the last against Manila Indo and Champ. That form hasn't worked out too bad. But I think they were, because of Chile Park, they were trying to make him into something that he wasn't.
Yeah.
They were thinking, we've got a Gold Cup horse here, and they found out the hard way, but they finally realised that he's probably going to be better over 2 miles than he is even 2.5.
It's not a bad thing to fall back on. We thought we had a Gold Cup horse. Turns out we've got a Champion Chase horse. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
There are worse ways to come up a little bit short. We'll move on now to the Champion Novice Chase, and this will be one of the most interesting matches of the whole festival. And maybe that's doing Carl Reevy a bit of a injustice as well. But Monkfish heads the market, just 4 runners. Monkfish heads the market at even money. Envoi Allen 5-4, Carl Reevy 8-1, Franco Deport 50-1. Now, Andy, at Cheltenham, they were 2 of the most hotly anticipated runners. Envoi Allen fell fairly early on, and Monkfish, despite winning fairly comfortably, maybe wasn't quite at a sparkling best that we anticipated. So, and then Carl Reevy, of course, just sitting outside of those 2 in the market. So how do you see this one?
How do I see it? Yeah, I see Monkfish winning again. I really do. I'm a fully paid up member of this horse. Have been for a little while. Thought he was a good thing at Cheltenham. Didn't back him, by the way, but thought he was a good thing, and he justified it. Albeit a little bit, to the naked eye at the time, a little bit more workmanlike than you would have liked. But going back and doing the numbers again, I've talked about this afterwards when I've done a few reviews of the Cheltenham Festival. His performance on the clock was simply startling. On the same card, he run the last lap quicker than the Champion Chase. So it was no reason why, it was no surprise why the Fiddle on the Roof and the Big Breakaway couldn't get anywhere near him, or that that's why they faded away. He's just a special talent. I just think that, funny enough, I thought Paul Townend that day just felt the pressure of this horse, and it sort of went through to the reins of Monkfish, because every time he kept trying to see a stride, sometimes the horse would say, "No, I'm not having that." He'd put down, and those little errors just sort of crept into his game from nowhere, really, because up to that he'd been foot perfect at Leopardstown, tricky jumping track that is. So I just think the fact that he's proven over 3 miles. He's got the numbers over fences already to suggest that he might at this stage just be a little bit better than Envoi Allen, or the safer conveyance anyway. Envoi Allen for me just wasn't quite on the money the other day at Cheltenham for one reason or another. He just didn't look comfortable, even to the point when he fell. And he's yet to prove himself over 3 miles as well. So that's a little bit of an issue. But look, it's a fascinating race. I'm looking forward to this one as well. It should be great entertainment. But I'm hoping Monkfish wins and continues on his merry road towards Gold Cup glory next season.
Monkfish even money favourite. And I'm guessing if you're going to have a bet here, it's got to be either Cole Reevy at 8s or Franco de Port at 50s.
Well, Cole Reevy's not out of this sort of strictly on figures. I mean, she's 158 rated. Obviously, gets a mare's allowance, a £7 pool, puts a bang there. And I actually think she's shaped as though she wants to trip on more than one occasion. I don't think she's as far off these as perhaps the betting would suggest. Having said that, I mean, if you can't get excited about 4 in a race like this, then you're in the wrong sport, aren't you? I mean, this is brilliant, especially this end of the back end of the season. I'm with Andy here. I'd probably be with Monkfish if forced. Envoi Allen's the interesting one. I mean, the few people who were there at Cheltenham say this horse got really agitated and worked up in the prelims before the Marsh Chase. Did not look himself, was a bit sweaty, a bit buzzy. And even Jack Kennedy said that the horse just didn't relax, didn't feel himself. Perhaps, the late switchy yards maybe had an effect, whatever. We don't really know. That's going to be a worry. If this horse is buzzy and free and lit up trying 3 miles, that's going to be a massive negative. So a lot of it, you'd almost want to see how Envoi Allen goes down to post. I think will be, you might see a big kind of drift in the latter stages before this race just goes off if he is lit up. So, and again, touching on the wider point very quickly, given the connections and the owners, I think this, again, is a fact-finding mission for Envoi Allen for next season. It's interesting at the end of the season, they're deciding to have a crack at 3 miles now. And given that they've got the Allaho, they've got Aplutard, I think there's a lot of kind of juggling to work out where the Cheveley Park big guns are all going to be aimed provisionally at the start of next season. Kind of in the back of my mind here, Envoi Allen's perhaps going to end up like the Ryanair horse. I mean, they always want him to be a Gold Cup horse, but there's wanting a horse to be something and what it actually is, if you see what I'm saying. And yeah. Just in the back of my mind, he doesn't, at the moment, he hasn't just looked like a 3 1/4 mile Cheltenham Gold Cup horse to me. I mean, he's got stacks of class, but he is, as I said, he can be a bit fizzy and you want to keep the lid on him. And I'm just wondering in time whether 2.5 would be his trip. And if Allaho drops down to 2 and Aplutard stays the staying trip, then there we go. Cheveley Park can put their feet up over the summer and it's all sorted, isn't it? So I think there's a bit of fact-finding mission here. Yeah, in short, I think Monkfish he's a stunning horse. He'll probably win. I think Cole Reevy will get closer to the front 2 than the market suggests. I don't think she's a forlorn hope, put it that way. But no bet, essentially.
No bet, essentially. But I think we all agree that, I mean, certainly in my head, you're having to take a massive leap of faith with Envoi Allen at over 3 miles at 5 to 4 when you've got Monkfish running for you at even money. And glad to kind of hear that you experts agree with my thinking there. On then to the Wednesday, where the markets are just reforming. We're going to do the Gold Cup and the Champion Bumper here on the Wednesday. And the Gold Cup, got Manila Indo is the 15 to 8 favourite. No surprises there. Ahead of Album Photo at 11 to 4. Clanders Obo 11 to 2. Kemboy 6 to 1. Fakir Dairies 10 to 1. Melon 14 to 1. Easy Game 28 to 1. 7 runners. Massive blow for punters there, Ed. But looking at this market at the moment, just as it's reforming now, any surprises?
No surprises. Market kind of as you would expect. Although I wonder there's a little bit of kind of anti-Cheltenham snobbery here just purely for prices. I just wonder whether Kemboy is a little bit the forgotten horse at the prices, given there's a touch of the beef or salmons with this individual, isn't he? There's kind of what he does at Cheltenham, which is form figures of 5th, 4th, unseated, 7th and 9th. And then there's what he does away from Cheltenham, which includes 4 Grade 1s. He's 2 from 2 over fences at this track. Bolted up in this race 2 years ago, of course, which was Ruby Walsh's farewell party, if you like, when he beat Album Photo quite convincingly. And so I think you are kind of getting 6 to 1 on the fact he disappointed at Cheltenham last time out, which he always does. So to me, that's kind of no surprise there. Manila Indo, I've just listened to Henry de Bromhead. He's not exactly someone who's going to kind of jump off the seat with enthusiasm about a lot of his horses. He often keeps everything kind of, cards close to his chest. He just sent out a few of those little warning signals about this is the end of a long, hard season for a few of mine. And, they're working well, but I can't quite tell. And is there petrol left in the tank? And that is always the worry when you get into, you're touching upon May. And a lot of these horses have been on the go since October. How do they take these races? And invariably, you look back through these meetings, there's always been 1 or 2 blowout. And we've had turn-ups in this contest. Remember, Planet Sound winning a big price. I think Roberto Goldback won at a massive price. And it was just horses. It was just, they'd gone to the well once too often for the season. That can happen, unfortunately. It's wise to be after this. We're always wise after the event, aren't we? So, in short, I think Kemboy's definitely valued at the prices. And Fakir Dairies, the one I've got a big question mark about. They tried 3 miles earlier in the season and he he didn't appear to stay. However, that's when Joseph Bryan went 2 months without a winner. The yard was stinking the truck out at the time. We've seen the horses come back. He ran really well, didn't he, behind Allaho at the festival, and then absolutely bolted up at Aintree last time. And the yard are in much better vein of form now. So he's a double-figure price. He is. I wouldn't give up on him. Seeing out 3 miles is essentially what I'm saying. So again, another trappy one. But I have backed Envoi for this again purely. If you just bin his Cheltenham form, he's got a very very good Grade 1 record, including in this race and at this track. So yeah, he is for me. I'll leave Andy to talk about Clandezobo, a horse I can never get right. So I'm going to shut up.
So Envoi 6-1 for Ed, with a favourable mention for Fakir Uderi at 10-1. Andy, Ed served Clandezobo up to you, so you better start with him at 11-2.
I think he's the wrong price. I think 11-2 is big. Paul Nicholls. This is just right up Paul Nicholls' street, isn't it? This to pull a rabbit out of that hat here with Clandezobo, and probably very tempting to run Clandezobo off toe weight in the Bet365 on Saturday, but of course he had Enrillo in that, and he was a bit unlucky. I still can't quite get my head around how Enrillo got thrown out in that race. I think he just dossed in front. He was by half an hour the best horse. Unfortunately, the stewards had failed to see that, and rather controversial. They gave it Potterman, who didn't deserve to win. Full stop.
Yeah, it wasn't impeded. I think we could do a whole other podcast.
We could do half an hour on that race and stewarded decisions. But anyway, getting back to Clandezobo, look, he comes here relatively fresh. Obviously, you ran at Aintree. You get what I'm saying. He didn't go to Cheltenham, and he looked spectacular at Aintree. I must admit, I was really, really impressed with him that day. He never ever looked like he was going to lose that race. He was always in control. Cheek pieces woke him up. He looked a totally different horse. The good ground, he bounces off of it. He goes really well right-handed. Kempton tells you that. And yeah, if there is some theory going out there that Henry de Bromhead's horses that went to Cheltenham aren't quite running as well as what they might subsequently, then Manolo Endo might have a little bit more on his plate, arguably, than it does look at face value, because he should really beat Alban Frota again. Of course, Envoi, Ed's eloquently put the case for Envoi, given reasons why he's got a better chance than the odds. I can certainly see that as well. I'm a massive fan of Manolo Endo, always have been. I felt a little bit of a fraud and a bit disloyal for taking the plaudits of him winning the Gold Cup, having tipped him anti-post and then kind of gone off him a little bit come nearer the hour. It was a case of I kind of like overplayed it, and he's bad ran a jump in the time before, and I should have just stayed in the zone with him. But look, he's always been a good horse, and if the Manella window of Cheltenham turns up when he was spectacular in every department, jumping, the way he travelled, the way he stayed, the time figure he recorded, then he's going to be very difficult to beat. From a betting perspective, at the prices, if some firm does go anywhere near sort of 5-1, and they do offer you 3 places, like a few firms have with when there are 7 runners, then he would be a fair each way back. Clandezobo. It's hard to see him, whatever happens, running badly.
Clandezobo 11-2 currently with William Hill 4-1 with a couple of other firms, so that could change pretty quickly. But do keep an eye out, as I say, on the oddschecker app or on the grids on the website as well. You can see the place terms, so you can tell who is sticking their neck out above the others to give you 3 places, despite there being 7 runners. I have a feeling probably a couple will do that, so keep an eye out. Onto the bumper now, and it's another match on first look. Sir Gerhard and Kilcroot, first and second in the champion bumper at Cheltenham. 5-4 Sir Gerhard, 11-8 Kilcroot. Lake Winnipesaukee, I'm going to go for 14-1. Yeah. I mean, it's not bad, is it? I mean, you'd think I should have to read through all of these horses before we even start recording, but sometimes I don't get around to it. Eric Bloodaxe a bit easier, 16-1. Ramirez 20-1. O'Toole 20-1. 50-1 Sundrench, and Ardler 66-1. Now, Andy, after the champion bumper at Cheltenham, my first thinking was, I think the better horse there has come second. The market can't split them massively, but currently has Sir Gerhard, the winner that day, just about favourite. How do you see it?
It is always a difficult one, isn't it, when you get a fast finisher like Kilcroot was in the bumper, to always go with that theory. But I flip it on the other side. I think it's just as hard to try and make all the running. and see it all the way out at Cheltenham. I think he showed better all-round speed throughout that race, and that's the reason he ended up winning. Kilcrook, to me, going into the race, always looked as though he was going to be a stayer. When he won at Leopardstown, it was Stamina that won the day that day. And it was the pace of Sir Gerard which enabled him to get away from Kilcrook at Cheltenham. So, look, what you've got to think about here is if this is going to be relatively tactical again, I don't know how the pace will shape up, what Paddy Mullins will end up doing on Sir Gerard, whether he'll actually have to make the running. He might not necessarily have to, because the one that you can't pronounce down the bottom.
You gonna have a go?
Well, no, I think you did it justice.
Lake Winnie Pisauke. There we go.
That's it. Lake Winnie Pisauke was in the process of bolting up at Leopardstown by going about 20-25 lengths clear until running out in the home turn at Leopardstown. So he's obviously a trailblazer. So that might make life a little bit easier for Paddy Mullins. So look, a lot depends how this race is run, where they are sort of at the 3-4 furlong pole turning in, and who has the best turn of foot. I think if it comes down to who's got the best turn of foot, we know Sir Gerard has. I think he's more the speed-based horse, the Rolls Royce, whether the other one is a built for long distance, as it were. So yeah, I'd probably stick with Sir Gerard.
You don't sound confident.
Not confident enough to take 11 to 10.
Yeah.
I'd rather take 11 to 10 even money back Monkfish. Because I'm pretty sure he's going to be off in front and seeing his fences and getting an uncontested lead. So I'm taking the tactical aspect out of that equation, and I can get even money. Whereas this, I don't know how it's going to work out. So that's the conundrum.
Ed?
I've got no idea, but Lake Winnipesaukee is the largest glacial lake in New Hampshire. So when you're watching University Challenge next time,
there you go.
Yeah, bear that in mind. Yeah, no, I'll sit and watch this one with a view of where I think those two will rank in terms of trip and pecking order for next season's novice hurdles.
Don't get caught in the same trap as I did, though, Ed, with appreciate it and think that because he stayed on well in the bumper, he's going to want 2.5 miles. I've still got a ticket. I've still got a ticket here with 12 to 1 on for appreciate it for the Ballymore.
Get it framed. Get it framed behind you. Put it.
I think I might not be the only person watching or listening who has a ticket now for Sir Gerhard for the Supreme and Kilcroot for the Ballymore. Each way double placed about 4 minutes after the champion bumper. So that, yeah, hopefully get a run for my money there.
Strong stays at the trip always win the Supreme.
I think for me the best result would be exactly the same. Sir Gerhard winning with Kilcroot fast finishing second would be absolutely ideal for that reason. And then for Lake Winnipesaukee for Peter Fahey, we actually went and spent the day with Peter in February last year at his yards over in Ireland, and he was incredibly accommodating. It's great to see him having such a good season, and I would love if he would, especially after what happened with that horses, as Andy said, running out on debut. It would be great to see him spoil the Mullins party come Wednesday afternoon. So best of luck to Peter and the team. On then to Thursday, where we've got the stayers. As I say, we don't have final decks for these yet, so we're kind of playing a bit of guesswork as to who turns up where. Flooring Porter's the 2-1 favourite. Cider Burley, we'll get Andy's thoughts on him shortly, is 9-2 second favourite. Beacon Edge 7-1. The Storyteller 8-1. Ronald Pump 8-1. Fury Road 12-1. 16-1 Bar. Ed, I'll come over to you for first one here for the stayers.
It's hard to make a case against Flooring Porter. I thought the horse won it fair and square last time out. Jumped, travelled. Rapid improver. There was that element, and myself included, I'll put my hand up after he won in Ireland last time out, didn't he, at Leopardstown. I thought, that was a little bit of a fluke, and all the talk was about those in behind. But I mean, he just looks to be going from strength to strength. He's rated 131 back in October. He's now 164. Looks, yes, I say, he just looks to be on an upward curve. He's only 6. I think he's the rightful favourite again, or we harp on about it, and I'm not trying to duck the issue, but you just do worry at the end of the season, again, some of these horses just run inexplicably flat, and I was looking through the history of this meeting, and it's just through nothing more than the fact they've just had enough. And so do you want to begin stuck in it 6-4, 7-4? Not for me. Again, I'm being very kind of splinters in my backside here. There was one who I did think was of interest coming back after minor injury. That was Ronald Pump. I thought that horse, was only beaten half a length by Honeysuckle in a Grade 1 over 2.5 when he was gaining on her all the time back at Fairyhouse in November. Had a little niggle, and listening to connections, they're almost like, well, they could have rushed him to get him to the stairs hurdle at Cheltenham, but they didn't want to do it. It would have been a race against time, and it was nothing major. But he's back on the track. He's working in good order. And, of course, he was runner-up to Lisnagar Oscar in the stairs hurdle at Cheltenham 12 months ago. Again, a little bit of the forgotten horse syndrome. I saw he was around the 7-1 mark. I think it clearly looks like he'll be fully revved up for this, and he'll be as fresh as daisies. And he might just be taking on a few horses who've had as I said, are at the back end of a long, hard season. So, yeah, tentatively with Ronald Pump here, but wouldn't be too surprised if Flooring Porter won easily.
Andy, a few likely lads for you here, side of Berlin, Ronald Pump. But let's talk about where you're. This is a new day, a new race. Time to find the value now. Who are you fancying?
Yeah, I've embarrassed myself quite a few times over the course of the season.
I don't believe it.
Manila Indo, that's one. I think I'm on record saying they should have retired Tiger Roll, and he went and did what he did at Cheltenham. And my third one was Flooring Porter. I'm still wiping the custard pie out of my hair after he won at Cheltenham. I was absolutely staggered that he managed to do what he did. But in all fairness, he could not have been any more impressive. I thought he toyed with good horses that day.
Yeah.
He's still on the bridle going down to the last, and despite wandering around and mucking about on the run, he still had loads in hand and beat Sir de Burle, my big fancy, fair and square. I think Sir de Burle is always going to be a better horse at Cheltenham. That was always my theory working along. If he couldn't beat Flooring Porter at Cheltenham, because I wasn't really convinced Flooring Porter would be a Cheltenham horse, then I don't think he's got any chance of turning the form around come Punchestown, because all his best form's going left-handed. But we are getting onto the nitty-gritty of what I'd back in this race, and that is Ronald Pump, which Ed's already alluded to. For all the same reasons, he's going to come here fresh. He hasn't had that hard season that a lot of these have. Don't forget, a lot of these have been on the go for a hell of a long time. Sir de Burle has only had 3 runs, but he did start his season off back in November in the Liz Mullen hurdle. Flooring Porter's had a hell of a lot of gigs to go to. I think he's run 6-7 times. The Storyteller, goodness me, if there's been a horse who's had more runs than him, then I'd like to see it. And the fascinating thing about this race is who will Heaven Help Us run here? Because if Paul Hennessy rolls the dice and runs her, she's very much going to be the spoiler to the potential front running antics of Flooring Porter, because she goes off obviously quite quickly. So in short, Ronald Pump's going to have this set up for him here. He's fresh. He goes incredibly well right-handed. If this was at Fairyhouse, I'd have my absolute life on him, because his Fairyhouse form is phenomenal. I just don't think he's never had a chance to run it, because he's never run at this meeting at Punchestown. He's either always run at Fairyhouse or run at Cheltenham or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the first time he's going to come here absolutely with no baggage attached to him. So yeah, at 8-1, he's a standout price for me.
Double tip there from both Ed and Andy for Ronald Pump. 8-1 currently with 2 firms, William Hill and Genting Bet. As I say, this is just early afternoon on Monday, so these prices may not hang about for long. Tomorrow we'll get final decks through, and if the race cuts up a bit, that 8-1 could be history. But similarly, I guess if Ronald Pump's taken out and you have your bet now, then that is a loser, of course. So you want to be careful there. A few firms might be going non-run no bet, or maybe not even, not that I can see. On then to the Ryanair Novice Chase, where I don't think this is going to be much of a betting preview, but more to talking about the top one in the market, and that is Energumene at 2-5, who of course missed the festival at Cheltenham back in March. Captain Guinness 7-2, Janadil and Embittered both 8-1, 16-1 Midnight Run, Jungle Junction 25-1, and Zarkareva is 66s. And is this going to be, easy as you like for Energumene? Are we expecting him to show his class on the biggest stage?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Envoi Allen runs elsewhere. Midnight Run runs in a handicap. There's a chance that Embittered might run in a handicap as well. So we're only going to be left with perhaps 2-3 runners to take him on, which is a bit of a shame. Look, it was a shame also that this horse didn't make Cheltenham. It would have been one of the classes of the festival. We always lose one of the big stars, don't we, going into the meeting and spoil, a real good head-to-head. And Shiskin in the end had a bit of a solo in the Arkle. I think he would have given him plenty to think about. but he does come here in a bid to round off his season in the best possible fashion, just like Shiskin did at Aintree, and with a clear run and jumping, I can't see anyone getting anywhere near him. They're not good enough. He's just proven himself the best Irish horse over this trip. He's won right-handed. He won at Garan early in the year, so that's not a problem. His stable companion Janadil's now back number, by the way. I think he's a very useful horse, as he proved last time out. I think he fell the time before, didn't he? So yeah, it's probably going to be more of a fascination to see what finishes second rather than what wins it. And like Ed's already alluded to, and I have, it's where they're likely to go after they've won. I think this meeting's going to tell us probably all we need to know about pecking orders and what division they're going to go in next season. I can't imagine that this horse won't be aimed at anything other than the Champion Chase.
Are you surprised? Because kind of visually with an argument, it looks like a horse who could be stepped up and trip. And given how, the going double-handed, Willie Mullins already has a pretty decent hand going in. I mean, I guess for Tony Bloom, the idea of having a Champion Chaser rather than a Ryanair horse next season, I mean, let alone going up to 3, could be the reason why. But are you surprised to see him still running over 2, or do you think this is?
Well, I think if Willie Mullins had his own way, he'd split the pack, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He'd run Egamergamin there, and he'd run Allaho there. Yeah. But the owners at the end of the day, they're the one that pay the bills, and if they want to run in the Champion Chase, then Willie's going to have to toe the line.
Yeah.
I think Allaho's the one that he's going to be the tail that wags the dog more than anything else, because I think with the Nergamin, with the greatest respect to the Ryanair, I think it's always the third of the big 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got a blue ribboned horse, you want to run it in the Gold Cup or run it in the Champion Chase. You want to know if you've got the Champion 2 mile or Champion 3 mile. The 2.5, not so much. And I think that's the way that most of the time, Shively Park think. I think they either want to run it, and that's why they made that mistake with Allaho. They didn't want to run it in the Mars Stakes, because that wasn't perceived to be the big one of the two. They wanted to run it in the best one, the RSA, which is perceived as the Champion Novice race.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an owner-driven thing more than anything. So I can't see them stepping a Merganim up to 2.5 miles unless he loses some of his speed that he's shown this season.
Yeah, Ed, anything for you here?
No, I think tactics it's going to be a small field. Listening to Henry de Bromhead, I think they're going to try and ride Captain Guinness much more quietly, shall we say. Obviously, when he's been bashing against Nergamin earlier in the season, they've been taking each other on at the head of affairs. Captain Guinness, again, in the Arkle, went off like a horse in the King's Stand, didn't he? And him and All Mankind almost beat each other up, and they both fell in a hole. Be interesting if they can get him to switch off and come try and pounce late on, at least be interesting from a tactical viewpoint, if you see what I'm saying. The only where I'd have with Nergamin purely would be on the ground. I mean, they're going to need to keep ploughing the Irish Sea on this ground, looking at the weather forecast. Otherwise, it's going to be absolutely rattling by the time this race goes. And Nergamin does have a bit of an E-action, and he has looked very happy on deep winter ground. I think his last 3 wins, 3 come on the heavy, 1 on softer heavy. This would be a totally different ball game, at least from that perspective anyway, in terms of it could be genuine good ground by the time they go to post in this. But again, this is a watching brief with a viewpoint to next year and what happens.
Well, let's get on to the Paddy Power Champion Hurdle then, where Honeysuckle is the 4-7 favourite ahead of Epatante at 7-2, Charge at 8-1, Abracadabra is 10-1 with Aspire Tower, Goshen 12-1, Jason the Militant 14-1, 25-1. Bar. Ed, I'll stay with you here. Pretty hard to pick holes, I guess, in Honeysuckle, even at 4-7, but guessing there's a couple in there behind that we could see maybe running into a place for us, or at least giving us a bit of a run for our money. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I'm actually going to take my Champion Hurdle. You can cut and paste me from back in March. You put me in here. I think I had fancied Honeysuckle to beat Abracadabras in the Champion Hurdle at Cheltenham Festival, and obviously Abracadabras didn't get any further than the third flight hurdle, which was frustrating for myself and those who backed him at prices. And then obviously he went to Aintree over 2.5. If he'd been anywhere else other than Aintree in good ground over 2.5, I don't think they'd run him. But I mean, that kind of almost looked like it stretched his stamina. But he's such a strong traveller, and the ground on a flat track and good ground, I think he got away with it. Almost Jack Kelly said, "I got there too soon," but he won well enough in the end. Again, if he lines up and he hasn't had enough for the season, that's always the slight worry. He's a double figure price here, and I do think he's a strong traveller. Every race he's in, I think he gets a bit of an unfair rap. To be honest with you, this horse, he's got 3 Grade 1s on his CV. every race he's in, he's always there or thereabouts coming to the end. And again, I think he would have followed home Honeysuckle at Cheltenham, or admittedly a good few lengths behind her. And I think we're going to see a similar thing again here. Again, just harp on about the ground. Again, be the slight worry if you are back in Honeysuckle at 4 to 6 or whatever. Minimum trip, less stamina demanding track, you'd argue, than Cheltenham. I mean, the mystery rain that arrived just outside my window before the Cheltenham Festival on the eve of the meeting, I think really just put the final tick in the box, if you like, for Honeysuckle back at the minimum trip, given she'd done a lot of her winning over further and on softer ground. And again, that would just be a slight worry if the ground is pretty rattling here over the minimum trip. But she does look a much quicker horse, doesn't she, this season? As Ruby Walsh was saying the other day, so most mares and horses, they get older, look slower. She seems to be getting quicker with age, and she seems to be even slicker over obstacles than she has been at any point in her career. So, yeah, I'll probably play the forecast up here, and I'll go Honeysuckle. And if Abracadabra's lines up, I think he'll travel into contention. He'll absolutely love the ground. He's a really quick horse. He'll jump and he'll travel well. And if there's no tomfoolery and he doesn't hit the deck, I think he'll be there or thereabouts come the last.
Abracadabra is 10-1 with Boyle Sports as it stands, as short as 6-1 elsewhere. So if you want to take the chance before final decks, that could be the way to go. Andy?
Yeah, this is definitely a race to play before final decks. The last thing you want to be doing here is looking down the barrel of a 6-7 runner race when you had the chance to play something each way, because the dynamics of the field, I wouldn't have thought, are not going to change too much in your head. It's just a race you've got to have a bet in, whether you think Honeysuckle's a good thing or not. Sometimes you just have to flip it and just say, right, I'm backing this each way. It's going to be in the first three. Crack on. Similar to Ed with Abracadabra. I mean, of all the things I've cursed at Cheltenham, there's quite a few, even though it was a fair meeting in the end, was the fall of that. He cost me an absolute fortune falling. I had in every single each way double, Yankee, and the other three came in. Sir de Burley, Put the Kettle On, Manila Indo, Abracadabra was my life-changing anti-post bet from the year before. So all he had to do was stay on his feet to be in the frame. And then, of course, he went on and won at Aintree, and I never backed him, did I? Because he wasn't an each-way price.
Yeah.
But he's the kind of horse you want to back each way. Abracadabra every day of the week. He's always there, travels, comes out, and you think, is he going to do it? Is he not? He did it at Aintree, every chance to do it again. But on a similar theory to Abracadabra, I don't get how Sharjah can be 8-1 and Epiton 3 times shorter. Unless my eyes are completely deceiving me and I've gone at the game, how on earth on this world is Epiton going to beat Sharjah? Sharjah hated the ground yet again at Cheltenham. Once again, he's run his face off. 2 years running on ground he absolutely despises. People say the theory about Sharjah, he goes over the top and he's no good after the new year. Well, he's not a bad horse after the new year for finishing second in a champion hurdle twice. It's the ground. He just doesn't like soft or heavy ground. But come good ground, there's not many horses who can live with this fella's turn of foot. Even Honeysuckle. So I think at 8-1 for Sharjah is an insult. He absolutely loves going right-handed. He's won here before. He's only had 3 runs of the year as well. He won early on the season, then that bad run, as always the case at Leopardstown, and then the run in the Champion Novice. So he's going to come here relatively fresh. So Ed's gone Abracadabra each way, and I'll go Sharjah each way at 8-1.
And presumably you wouldn't put off people backing both each way.
Why not?
Why not? 8-1, 10-1, Sharjah and Abracadabras. If you're the Ball Sports account, you can get those prices with both Unibet and Betway, both 8-1 as well for Sharjah. As it stands, 3 more races to go. We're going to do the Champion Novice hurdle now, then on to the 4-year-olds hurdle, and then finish with the Mares Champion. For the Alana Holmes Champion Novice hurdle, we've got Bob Ollinger as the 4-6 favourite, ahead of Appreciated at 4-1 as it stands. Gaillard de Menil is 5-1. Galopin de Champ is 6-1. Ashdale Bob 10-1. Cape Gentleman 14s. Blue Lord 14s. Loads of Time Exciting Girl 14s, but plenty of these going to come out. Andy, at the top end of the market, do we think we're going to see Appreciated line up with Bob Ollinger?
It'd be great if we did. This would be a lovely race, wouldn't it? Over 2.5 miles. Appreciate it going up against the best 2.5 mile horse as it stands at the moment in Bob Ollinger. I think Bob Ollinger's performance pound for pound was one of the best at the festival when he beat Gaillard de Menil. And I think there was a clash for the purists. The good horse of Nichols was back in third, who had every chance, Brave Man's Game. the time figure was good, and the split times as well suggested that Bob Ollinger's got, pretty much everything. He stays, he can quicken, and he could always go back in trip as well. He's another one you could have on your mind for perhaps a champion hurdle. I mean, where do they go with him? Mm-hmm. If they don't go over the fences, I mean, there's nothing for him at Cheltenham. He's not going to stay 3 miles just yet. So why don't they do what some class connections have done and drop him back into 2 miles? He almost looked as though he wanted to go faster, didn't he, at Cheltenham at every stage of that 2.5 mile race. Easterbrack, who's the other good horse? Hardy Eustace won the old Ballymore before they went on to win the Champion Hurdle. So he's another one to throw into the mix for the Champion Hurdle next year. So this race will tell us just about as much as we need to know about him than anything else. But yeah, I think he'll win whatever happens. Bob Ollinger, I just think he's a special talent along with Monkfish. We're blessed to have so many good national horses around at the moment. They're going to be flying the flag for their connections for many years to come.
Exciting stuff. Bob Ollinger there, 4-6 favourite as it stands. Ed?
Yeah, looks all the vibes are. It doesn't sound like Appreciate It's going to line up. Whether they just think he's perhaps not working as well as they thought he would do at the end of the season, whether he's had enough, whether the ground's going to be lively enough for him, I don't know. But Bob Ollinger, was scintillating. One of the few things I did get right at the Cheltenham Festival, anti-post, and he obliged. I agree. It was quite funny. I think Henry de Bromhead said in jest, he said, yeah, we've got a good plan for him next season. It involves 2.5, 3 miles, and it involves either hurdles or fences. So I think, there's a bit of tongue in cheek there. I think they're going to, like you said, we're going to sit down and sit down with the owners over the summer with a glass of wine and form a plan. But he just looks exceptional, doesn't he? He looks to me an Argle horse. That'd be like in terms of the he looks really in the mould. He's got the stamp to be a good chaser. I think coming back to 2 wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, again, those are bigger prices. It's hard to get enthusiastic. It's going to cut up a bit. I would be interested if Dusart did run, because I do think he will be much more suited by 2.5. He looked a slow old boat, I thought, last time out, to put it politely, when beating Aintree. And you also got to remember that was his first run for nearly 6 months. He'd be entitled to stripped a lot fitter than that. And, being beaten a couple of lengths by Belfast Banter probably isn't bad form at all. So he's around 16-1. I've got no idea. I was frantically looking for a Nicky Henderson quote to see whether he's committed to it. I haven't seen anything. I could see him starting half the price he is now if he did line up, if you see what I'm saying. But it looks Bob Ollinger's to lose, doesn't it?
Does look that way indeed. Interesting to see if Appreciate does come out. Bob Ollinger could be very short, so I wonder that 4-6. If you are somebody who's happy to back a 4-6 shot, could look big on the day. If, as Ed says, Appreciate It doesn't line up against him. 2 more to come. We've got the 4-year-olds hurdle, the Champion 4-year-old hurdle, and this is a really interesting race. Again, 2 at the top, but also a third in there who was incredibly impressive on debut for Willie Mullins at Cheltenham. We've got Quixelos at 7-4, Zana here at 2-1, Horton Couleur, the horse I was talking about, 3-1, pitched in at the deep end at Cheltenham and by no means disgraced. St. Sam 9-1, Jeff Kidder is 12-1, 33-1 bar. And a really interesting one, this, isn't it? With those 3 locking horns. Zana here was sent off favourite back at Cheltenham, but Quixelos was the one who got home in front. The market has reacted to that. How do you see it going?
I thought of all the rides that Rachel Blackmore was lauded for at the festival. Probably the one that was the most unsung was the ride on Calixios in the Triumph Hurdle. I thought she did everything right on the horse, took the race by the scruff of the neck, kicked at the right moment, and that was very much down to her brilliance. That having said that, I still thought Calixios was a worthy winner on the day. Zana here might not necessarily have brought his A grade to the table. Thought it was an excellent run by Willie Mullins' horse you mentioned there, Horton Couleur. But I still expect Calixios to hold sway. Zana here could get a bit closer, going back right-handed on better ground. I just didn't think he was quite the horse that we were anticipating at Cheltenham. In fact, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the true Zana here. But he still clocked the fastest time of the year, and that was that Fairy House run. Even Calixios didn't use a bit at Cheltenham, so numbers wise, then Zana here has got a chance. But Calixios, course and distance winner, right-handed, can ride him pretty much how you want. He doesn't pull. He's a horse that relaxes, gives you every chance. Yeah, again, it's another one that from that the Cheltenham meeting, it's difficult to etch that out your memory how impressive he was.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like you can almost overcomplicate things when those three are so close to the market.
Exactly.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm fence sitting a bit here. Won't be getting involved. I think we'll see. I think Zaniher will get closer. I think he was far too keen, lit up. There was a little bit of rain softened ground. He just, I don't think that was his best form. I think this surface will probably suit him better. Having said that, you got to be brave to go against Quilixios on the evidence of what we saw at Cheltenham, haven't you? Horta Calor is probably the one, yeah, given the relative lack of experience. I mean, that horse absolutely tanked through the race.
Yeah.
Like a really good individual, was only beaten 3 lengths at the line. So you think there's more to come from him. It's a race of ifs, buts, and don't knows from my point of view. But nonetheless, I think we've got some very good horses here. And it sounds like Saint Sam and Jeff Kidd are going to roll the dice as well, kind of stepping up from the handicap company into this level. So again, a race with plenty of note-taking with next season in mind from my point of view.
Yeah, either way, a fascinating spectacle. And to the last, the Mares Champion Hurdle, Concertista is the 11-8 favourite, ahead of Burning Victory at 7-2. Tell Me Something Girl, 5-1. Stormy Island, 6-1. Sky Ace, 7-1. Lorena, 8-1. Echoes and Rain, 8-1. That has caught me by surprise. Ed, we'll start with you then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm yet to hear officially, but I believe she might be back in training from what she is back in training. But I don't know whether it's something to do with the breeding operation going wrong. I must admit, I won't try and bluff you. I do not actually know what's happened there, but the vibes and the social media circles are she's back. But yeah, again, blowing my trumpet here. That was my lay of the festival. Remember when I was pushed? You pushed me for it, George. Yeah. Going back, I said Concertista purely because I think she's a 2 minor. I do. I think that's her trip. I said it at the time, and I'll say it again now. I think she's got a lot of dash, this mare, and I just think she got a little bit found out on very soft ground. To me, she travelled through the race like the best horse at the Cheltenham Festival, the best mare, and it just came down to a little bit of battle of wills against Black Tears in the final half furlong, and I think she got outstayed, I wouldn't necessarily say, but she's got so much natural speed and class. I'd love to see her come back down to the minimum trip and take on the boys with a mare's allowance. But anyway, problem is again in this race, which kind of way do you go? Because there's no Black Tears here, as you say. Lorena, a kind of a bizarre U-turn. Tell Me Something Girl. I don't know if she's lining up here or I think she might be going up the 3 mile route, listening to connections. And then you've got Burning Victory coming back after 7 years off the track. Of course, was the most fluky winner of the Triumph Hurdle we'd ever seen, haven't we? When Goshen departed 12 months ago. Another real muddling race, it has to be said. Okay, Concertista, no, I think she's the best mare in the race. I would just like to. I think she's got a knee action, and I think she wants 2 miles. I think a heavy ground Champion Hurdle would be right up her street. Put it that way. She's going to get 2.5 here on good ground. That perhaps will, my point of view, I've got a little question mark against her stamina. I think she might be able to get away with it here because I just do think this is a substandard race. So I think Concertista by default probably wins. But again, she's only 7. I'd love to know the kind of long-term plan next season. I'd love to see her come back to the minimum trip because she's not short of a gear at all.
Andy?
Yeah, Ed's made some great points about Concertista. And yeah, they might have rolled the dice in the Champion Hurdle, but obviously they didn't. And maybe next year that could be the key with her. The things with this race, looking at it now, a lot of these aren't going to run. Tell Me Something Girl, I'm surprised isn't going for this race because she looks as though 2.5 or so. But they're going with 3 miles with her.
Yeah,
I think on the first day or the second day, which is a bit of a head scratcher. We don't know where Heaven Help Us is going to go. We know Echoes in Rain goes for the Grade 1. We haven't seen Burning Victory for 414 days. Mrs. Milner goes for a different race. So, we're only going to get probably 4 or 5 runners in this. So Concertista, if she is going to get away with it in inverted commas, this might be it because it probably won't be as strongly run as you had anticipated. The one I can't believe is not here, by the way, is Black Tears. Where's Black Tears? She should be in this race, shouldn't she? God, this is hers for the taking. One at a big price, I presume she'll be a big price, and I presume she'll run here, is My Sister Sarah. She's got a bit to fight, quite a bit to fight with Concertista at Cheltenham, but she does run Punchestown incredibly well. She's unbeaten here, I think, in 3 starts. She's always won for one of those listed stroke big handicaps. So yeah, if you're looking to play on the day and there is some each way betting or 3 places available, then maybe you want to go down and have a few quid on her.
Great stuff. Well, that brings us to the end of our Punchestown Festival preview, a whistle-stop tour of some of the biggest races over the week. Before I let you guys go, are there any other horses that people on races we haven't discussed that you'd like to flag up now?
Yes, very quickly. I've had a bet in the I will have a bet in the horse I flagged up in the handicap hurdle. Forgive me, you just throw me there, George. A curveball in terms of the time, because the handicap hurdle on the Tuesday over 2 miles. Tudor City with Tony Martin won the Galway hurdle a couple of years ago, you may remember, and then has disappointed subsequently. However, it's starting to tumble back down the way. It's just the 450. There we go. The 450. Tudor City, Tony Martin is now only £2 higher than winning the Galway hurdle. Obviously, if the Galway hurdle again is the kind of long-term aim, the horse might not be fully revved up for this, but has plummeted down the weights. Ground will be fine. Trip and track, and as I said, is now feasibly weighted. So could go well at a big price. I think the horse is 33 to 1. So we'll be tempted at that kind of price. I would be lured in, shall we say.
Tudor City 33 to 1 with Hills, Betfair Sportsbook, Bet Victor, Betfred and Boyle Sports. Andy?
Yeah, well, I'd like to probably keep some back for particularly the handicaps for myself. Obviously, my column won't be littered with sticking up even money chances, which we just discussed at length. But I am very, very keen on one in the Mare's Bumper that runs on the Wednesday. It's a Grade 3 race. She ran a hugely encouraging race on debut, one of Lorna Fowler's called Manny Sander. You need to go back and watch the video of that race. That was a strongly run race won by the sort of key form guide to all the Irish bumpers this season of Gavin Cromwell's one, it called Let's Be Clear About It, who ties in with Sir Gerard and Kilcrut. And this mare, first time out 50 to 1, only got beat 4 lengths. Wow. She quickened up really, really well with those front two, and the 3 of them went miles clear of the rest. I thought it was an incredible run first time out. Bound to have needed it, both mentally, physically. She's definitely a graded mare in prospect. I don't think that race is particularly strong, that Mare's Bumper. There's certainly no Let's Be Clear About It in it either.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's run well against the Geldings is a massive plus. So I'll be sniffing around for prices on her when the odds come out in the morning.
Good stuff.
Manny Sander.
No prices now. Manisander, they're the one for Andy in the Mare's Bumper, which is the last race, is 7:35 on Wednesday.
I know Ed won't be hoovering up the prices because he doesn't bet in bumpers anyway.
Yeah, it's just me to worry about, Andy. So let's brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Andy and Ed, for joining me today and talking us through some of the big races at the Punchestown Festival. Should be a brilliant 5 days racing throughout the course of the week. Make sure that you download the oddschecker app so you are betting all of your bets at the very best prices available, also the best place terms, booking offers, free bets, and all the rest, including some of the very best tipsters in the game and these tips every day of racing straight to the app on the morning of the racing itself. Do download the app, and do also get on our YouTube page and subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find plenty of preview content and other features as well. And you can find all of these podcasts and preview podcasts on all podcast platforms too. Enjoy the racing, and please do gamble responsibly.